Hey, people. Hey, what's going on? Happy Friday or day you are coming and finding us. We are going to be talking about what we're going to be talking about, or what we have to talk about. We have to talk about America's Next Top Model. And I feel like does this need to be a family discussion? Do we need to bring the family in and us sit
Whose
down
family?
in a circle? Everybody, the family that watched it.
Okay.
Everybody just come. Let's grab a chair. Let's do a little bit of group therapy. Let's debrief.
Okay.
Because we done been through a lot. We've been through a lot with Tyra. We've been through a lot with both of the J's. You know what I'm saying? So we're here to talk about it. I don't know if you know, but work trauma is a thing. People talk about all different types of trauma and what that looks like and how it shows up. But I think a lot of people don't talk enough about work trauma
Mm-hmm.
and how that is a place that we are primarily traumatized and
Yeah.
can be on a regular basis. All this other stuff, yeah, maybe, kind of, whatever. But routinely, we got trauma at work. So we're talking about that and how that overlaps with America's Next Top Model. As usual, we are your wonderful co-hosts who are two black licensed therapists who talk about everything at the intersection of mental health and black culture. So come join us on this journey. So question,
For me.
when you watched the documentary,
Mm-hmm.
what was your first reaction?
Um, First reaction was my first reaction. Sorry, I think my mic is doing something weird. But my first reaction was I loved America's Next Top Model. As unhinged as it may have
After you
been.
saw the documentary, you were like, I love this.
No, like you said like in my first thought. Like
No,
when I
after
first
the documentary is
like
what I said.
after
But
like it was over.
yeah,
I think
say
that
from
it
the
was
beginning.
still like this still idea that I think that it was unhinged. It was unhinged when I watched it. Like she
It was.
literally like they literally did stuff that was like over the top. It was weird. It was sometimes it was stupid. At least like stupid to me. But
I think it was objectively stupid.
it was entertaining, and I think that I was one of the many people who got sucked into it. Now after a while I got bored, I guess, because I don't know, life or whatever, because I don't think I watched past like season maybe like 6 or 7. So didn't even know that there was like 20 something seasons, didn't even know it. I thought that it went off at some point. Did not even know that it was still happening. So I think that there was like a little bit of like shock in that for me. um but yeah, I was definitely one of those ones who always thought that it was unhinged, who always thought that it was extra. um and but I still kind of thought that it was entertaining.
Hmm. I mean, I think that's why so many people watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel the same way. Like, I don't know. I can't even remember when it came out because the timelines never made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I remembered watching it, which I feel like was college, but I think the timeline is that it came out
Yeah.
before I was in college. So I don't even know how it got to where it got and how it got in front of me in the timeline that it got into. But like, it was entertaining. It was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I think partially it's like, ooh, Tyra is a black woman. We already know
Now
and
listen, I
feel
was a
like we love
Tyra
her.
fan.
So we're
I
gonna go
was
support,
yeah,
right?
I
Like,
was definitely a Tyra fan. Love me some Tyra Banks. Like so
yeah.
yeah, she's doing this. She was like the it girl, like the it model that we all knew about. This was definitely a time where we only had like 2 or 3 models, like black models that we knew of anyways. So for her to come out and like I'm gonna do a model show, it was like heck yeah, let's watch this.
Hmm. Very into it. Very excited. And I think back then, even I was like, this is strange.
Oh, it got stranger as
But
the seasons went on. Like
more and
season
more.
1, I think
More and more.
was like a little bit like, okay, this is a little like much. But like I think that in my mind, I mean, for one, I'm not a model. I was probably like, I was like,
Who is?
I mean, I was definitely a teenager, so I
Those
knew
girls
like
were models. They were just there to
yes.
do
So like
something.
my teenage brain and having zero knowledge of, I mean, I still don't really have a lot of knowledge of model industry, but like still having like zero knowledge of model industry, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it takes to become a model.
Truly. Truly.
I believed it.
But that's
But
what
like
they sold us.
they can't eat. They have to like be able to do like all these like weird poses for all these like different people. I believed it. It's the American dream, guys.
But that's also what they sold us, did they not? because I half the time I was like, this is weird, but I'm not in the modeling industry. How do I know what they got to do?
100%.
How do I know how do I know what's required of them? So I guess there's going to be a situation because Tyra would also say that out of her mouth. There will be times when they ask you to do this. There will be times when you got to do this. And I was like,
Maybe they will.
seems on brand to me. What do I know? I've never been to Europe.
Yes. And then, I mean, sometimes I do think, I'm like, I guess like when I do see these women in like these Vogue magazines and like these like weird poses, that's what they're doing. So in my mind,
It makes sense.
now granted, like I said, as seasons went on and some of the things that were did, some of the challenges, like once again, I'm not a model, I'm not in the modeling industry. I've never seen these things anywhere outside of the boot camp that was America's Next Top Model.
It was. They literally had boot camp. This is making more sense now.
But I think something that I did not know, I mean, clearly I would not have known, but I did not know that Kevin Monk, the producer, was also the producer of Making the Band.
Ken Monk.
Monk.
You just said, oh, man.
Listen,
Ken Monk.
Y'all watch the documentary. You know what his name is. You know what I'm talking about. He was also the producer of Making the Band, which actually
created it and produced it,
which actually made a whole lot more sense.
Didn't the things like the synapses in your brain? When I saw it, I was like, oh,
yeah, it just like clicked together in that moment, and I was like, oh, because Making the Band was also unhinged. And I do agree with something that Tyra said, though. We were in that era. We were in that era of Making the Band, like American Idol, like Survivor. Like it was like the beginning of like these like competition based shows. And I really do think during that time, you had people who honestly and truthfully thought this is how I'm gonna make it.
Well, that's what they told them.
Yes, but I think that like nowadays, I'm not judging anyone's show or anything of that nature, but nowadays, most people, I don't know for everybody, but a lot of people don't go on reality TV for the thing that the reality TV is the actual show is about.
I was thinking about that, but I also think
we can have all these love shows and everything else. We know that, but most people on there are going on there for their ability to become famous.
Yes, but I think we didn't even know that back then. Like I was thinking about this a lot. Of like I don't remember when American Idol started and how close that was to America's Next Top Model. But in my mind, and I feel like a lot of the models kind of said this too, that they thought that this was just a documentary about people trying to become models, not necessarily a reality TV show about
how to become a model.
Kind of, but kind of not, right? Like
I think something that like that. There is a level too that there seems to be, whether it was not explained well, whether it was explained in terms that were not understood, because I thought that that's a thing that happens as well too. We've watched enough documentaries on celebrities who signed up for stuff, like musicians who signed contracts and had no idea what they were signing up for. Things are said to you and you have no idea what they're saying. Because like even like one of the girls said that she thought that she was signing up for Tyra Banks to be her mentor.
But that is also what they said, though. There's a lot of girls that went on there and talked about the show and said, because I remember the commercial saying, Tyra said, I will personally mentor you. I will help you break into the field. And then they say, we never saw Tyra again after that. So like sometimes people are misrepresenting themselves. Sometimes they just straight up lying.
Yeah.
And I feel like they kind of did all of the above and took advantage of the fact that people wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
And people wanted a career in modeling. And they were like us. They didn't know anything about it. So they were like, well, this is what they say you got to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it.
This is what you said it looked like.
Let me take that. Let me connect those dots. So talking about that and talking about work trauma and how that shows up for all of us, a lot of times at the top of whether it's an industry like this or whether or not this is even like, your
industry.
Yeah, this is like whatever industry that you're working in. A lot of times there is someone at the top of this agency company food chain who is potentially exploiting you and profiting off of you for their benefit and not for your benefit. And I think that there are times when those individuals know that they can exploit certain individuals, so therefore they do.
I think it's not even certain individuals. I think they do it to everyone as much as they possibly can. There might be people who let them do it a little bit less than others.
Yeah.
But it kind of depends. Like, how many jobs have you started, had, become, like, worked in, that they said it was going to be one thing, and then when you got there, it was a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And they had you sign on a piece of paper.
Yes.
Hey, it's going to be like this. Don't worry about it. Oh, well, don't worry about the fine print. That just means this.
Yes.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
then
They
even
give you
when you
that
ask for
goal.
clarification of it, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Oh, like don't worry about that."
Yeah. Yeah. But you don't read contracts and you don't speak legalese. Therefore, I don't know. She said that's what it said. It kind of looked like it said that. Let's sign it.
Yeah.
Because also I want the money.
Yes, I need a job.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or I want life-changing money. There are also, like, working. Shout out to Wendy's, my first job. Like, when I signed up for Wendy's, I kind of feel like I know what I'm getting into. There are other people who are like, I got an opportunity to make the most money I've ever made in my entire life.
Mhm.
I don't care what the contract says.
Okay.
Give it to me and let me make this money.
Yeah.
And especially us as Black and brown people
Mm-hmm.
who be desperate for stuff sometimes, we just sign. And I have signed.
Yes.
And then we get bamboozled.
Yes.
And then we be like, interesting. That's really difficult.
Or like you say, when the money seems good because it's more than you've ever gotten, and then when you get inside, you realize that the work does not match the money. So it's like, oh, this sounded nice.
Yeah, but it's 60 hours a week and
Yes.
one vacation a year.
Plus, I'm on call.
Exactly.
Plus, I'm being attacked by kids, and like maybe that's just me and my story.
So yes, it is $250,000, but I don't actually get to have a life outside of that. Mm-hmm. So maybe if I would have known that before taxes, and if I would have known before, maybe I wouldn't have made this decision.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe I would have did it again. I don't know. But I think that there's like the ability of.
But you also didn't get a chance to make an educated decision because you didn't know.
Yes. So yeah, that is the hard part of how we sometimes get into these situations. You brought up another situation of one of my personal first experiences of what I would say like work trauma. And I think that we also see it in this documentary potentially.
Can you raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by the capitalist system and a workplace event, a company that you could name?
That's a whole nother thing. But what happens when I feel like it also happened in this documentary, potentially, according to Jay, was the relationship between Jay,
Miss J or Mr. J?
Mr. J.
Okay.
I'm trying to think his last name. Sorry, Manuel. About what he says was the relationship between him and Tyra. And I remember being and this happened to me even as an adult.
Charmaine, don't get me started, but we can go there.
But the work trauma of becoming close or attached to either colleagues,
yes,
or thinking that they're friends, either colleagues or even bosses, becoming attached to bosses, and then something happening and like that happening between y'all. I remember being like really, really close to my boss, and I'm thinking that they're like, we're friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this is my friend. Mm-hmm. And then finding out, oh, she's not my friend.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I just work for her.
And then how do we deal with the emotional aspect of like, what does that look like of me having to show up every day and smile and still doing my job when I now have a friendship hurt?
And even more compounding, like you have a friendship hurt, you don't know where to put that. And you still have to work in the system and see this person every day. You have to figure out what your job now means in this system, because when you're friends with your boss, there are some things that you got to get away with that maybe other people didn't get to get away with, or that they were cool on because y'all was cool, and now y'all not cool. So now where does that leave you job wise?
Yeah.
Where does that leave you at the yearly review wise? Are you going to get the money that you're supposed to get? Like, are you going to get written up or not written up for things that happened, but it was okay when y'all was cool, but it's not no more.
Yeah.
Like, it's layers to that. It's personal and it's professional and it's like livelihood too.
Yeah.
Because what if you can't leave?
Yeah, that part as well too. Because there are situations where it's not just easy just to get up and walk away from the situation. So now I'm stuck here and I have to stay in this emotional space and try to deal with potential repercussions of like what was this relationship. So I understood like I said, I don't know who lying, who not lying. That ain't my business. But you
I
could
think
tell
everybody tell the truth. That's the problem.
possibly, but I think that there was
Both
like
sides,
yeah, that
yeah.
there was like hints of truth and all of that. I think that there was. You could tell that both of them were probably hurt by that by that relationship, and they just like never dealt with it.
Very. Because, I mean, yeah, I guess Tyra was technically his boss, kind of, but
I think that she
she,
was. Yeah, she was the boss. But I think that in his mind, because they were close, because like this idea came like with them together, he was like, "Yeah, we created this together. Like we're friends. Like
and it's still Tyra's show, and they still can do it without you, right? And like, it's not necessarily even about that show. It's the whole thing,
yeah,
right? Of like, the person who hires your boss is never you.
hmm
It's never you.
yeah,
So that means they always have someone they have to respond to. And maybe your boss hired you, but that also means they have the power to fire you,
yeah."
right? Like, there's always this dynamic.
Or what happens when you become the person in charge and now you have to reprimand your friend? So like we were on this level, and then like my boss comes to me and it's like, "Hey, little buddy over there ain't doing his job." Now I got to be like, "Hey, friend, you getting wrote up."
Yep.
So now we have like discord
Mm-hmm.
because I had to do my
It's a
job,
light way to put it. We got a lot. Yeah.
but only because I had to do my job,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's affecting you.
Right. And now the secrets that you told me in private, now what if they just flow into the professional now?
Baby, I've seen it. I have seen folks. I
Easily.
have seen folks in my job get mad at the boss real quick, and yeah, I don't even know she going through. I'm like, gosh, dog, that's what we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm. And
okay,
then a whole lot of public blow up. So like, I think watching America's Next Top Model is it's all very relatable. Like, looking at this with adult eyes, of like, yes, like the girls went through a lot of stuff. It was very traumatic. Like, I see you, we see you. That's not normal work experience. It
hmm
shouldn't be a normal work experience. But looking back, I could feel it being like, dang, I relate to that, and just being in the working world.
yeah,
Like, this makes a lot of sense to me, even though it shouldn't.
no, yeah, and I think that something that is hard for me is that when people criticize what they don't understand emotionally, like I
Explain that to me.
because I feel like I understand what it feels like to be young, to not understand something, to have a dream or have a goal, and then to be misled, and then to feel like that I'm not quite sure how to get out of the way that I've been misled, or to possibly even be gaslit by the people around me who I thought were going to protect me, but they're really looking out for themselves. So now I'm confused. Like if you see a lot of these women talk about like the circumstances of like which they were in, of like what the living situations were like, and what like constantly being recorded, things that they're not used to and things that are uncomfortable. And then even when you saw some of them speak up and say, "I'm uncomfortable," they were shunned
Right.
or made to seem like that they were the problem.
Right.
"Oh, well, you don't want this bad enough," or "You don't want to be a model," or "You're going to be the reason why all the girls can't have this, like, can't have their dream." Like, it's
Right.
like the pressure to like make you feel like that you're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's traumatic.
Yeah. And I feel like it happens at work all the time. Like, I think, look, here I am going on my soapbox, but like, we have to work in this system that everybody has to work in. And so whether you like it or not, you're still a part of the system. Like, you're still like a little cog in the machine. And so people may try to value and put at the forefront, like, you're human, you're only this, you can only do this, you should just like try your best. But at the end of the day, they still have to promote the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it don't matter if you going through and you ain't got no money, or your mental health is a wreck. If you don't get this quota together,
Mm-hmm.
it don't matter, right?
Yeah, or even
Essentially, it
and
doesn't
it's like
matter.
I think it's like almost like the backhandedness of
Hmm.
like you should take a mental health day, like take care of yourself, and then when you do it, it's like, so Jasmine, you're gonna get this job done.
Right.
Like I
But who's
want you
gonna
to
do your stuff?
I want you to take care of yourself until it impacts the company,
Exactly.
and then come back.
Hmm. But then there's no divorcing yourself from that, right? Like, you taking a break is going to impact the company. Nobody said it had to be a bad impact, but it's going to impact the company.
Mhm.
And so we have all this push and pull of people trying to be in the system that is exploiting them, and then finding support in the system that is still exploiting them, when at the end of the day the system is still exploiting
Mhm.
them, right? And like that's the system that we're in.
Yeah, and I think that there's also the hard part of when you kind of like what you said earlier, when you feel like whether it's true or not true, but when you feel like that you don't have a choice or that there's potentially going to be like embarrassment or shame of if I quit this. Like how many of those girls literally said, "What happens if I quit this and I have to go back to Walgreens in like Kentucky?" Like that feeling. Or like my
It's not
family's
funny, but I just had a thought in my head. Go ahead.
but like that feeling of like, okay, so like I'm gonna win this. My family's gonna get some money. If not, I don't have anything else to fall back on.
Hmm. And I feel like that's specific to top model. But like, if I even like can zoom out a little bit more, has anybody ever gotten a job that was like on a different side of the country or like away from your family, and they had to sell things, they had to move their stuff, they had to break a lease, they had to do all this stuff and go somewhere else where it was new and nobody was there and they had no support,
Mm-hmm.
and then they get there and the job is crusty and raggedy, and then it's it's very difficult to go back, like
Mm-hmm.
go back home.
Yeah,
When I left, I told y'all, uh,
I was gonna
I,
make it.
I was gonna make it, and also, if you didn't believe in me, go kiss it where the sun don't shine, and you do all that, and then you can be like, now I gotta come back and face all these people that told
Yeah,
me I wasn't gonna make it, and then I actually haven't made it yet.
and that's what
Like
I say.
even that
Even
is
like not
traumatic.
after like I hey, I've seen people who do that in like a different city in the state, and then you like,
Hmm.
can I come back to the house?
Easily,
Yeah,
easily,
and I
but
think
it's
it's that.
embarrassing. Like there's shame in that. There's difficulty in that, and then also like some of these women on top model that said like I was homeless after that. I had to live on somebody else's couch, right? Because in situations like that,
You
and
quit your
that is
job.
not the only job in the world that is like that. That says you have to reserve everything for us. You don't have anything else,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that they didn't have a place to live. They while they were on the show, they couldn't work. Like that was work, and maybe they
Yeah,
thought they were gonna get paid, but
yeah.
they didn't. And so, like, where do you go after you've been doing that for how long? Half a year, 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
And
and you
then
don't have any income to show
And
for
then
it.
mind you that the like they signed contracts that most of them were not aware of, but the ones who lost could not even go home until the show was over. So imagine being eliminated on the first episode and then having to stay in a weird hotel for just
Why
months.
is it a weird
I don't.
hotel?
I'm just saying, like,
I would say they were in the U.S. for at least the first half, but yes.
but like an unknown hotel or anything for just months.
Hmm.
I mean, and like shows still do that. Like shows
Oh
still
yeah, they
still
definitely
keep the
do that.
contestants there. So yes, it protects the show, but it's still like
But isn't that like a regular job though?
yes, which I think it's like something that you said is that a lot of times what is good for the business or good for the company is not always good for the employee.
Hmm. And I will go a step further and say, if it's good for the business and good for the company, it, like as a rule, is usually not good for the employee. Like they don't really coexist together very well. They just don't, because that's where we are in late stage capitalism. So let's move on a little bit to talk about like why this stuff happens. Like why is work a breeding ground for trauma in a way that other stuff may not be? Because I that's my opinion. I think that it's a breeding ground for trauma. There's so many ways that people can be impacted by the trauma at work because it's work.
Okay, explain.
So I think it's the words that we use around work, besides the fact that we use work to determine our value.
Mm-hmm.
And so if things at work don't work out, then that means we have nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We're bad, we're poor, we're not smart, we're like all of these things that people deem as negative. I also think, how many jobs have you been to when they're like, we're a family? Just a big work
And
family.
I know I'm not the only one who ever got happy about that, thinking that I did have a work family.
But that was usually good news though. When you go into an interview and you're like, what's it like being working here? And they're like, we're just a big family. You're like, oh,
That's
okay.
sweet.
I like that. But
Which could
then
be a thing too for us to recognize that if you already have trauma and then you go into a situation that is also traumatic, it just like makes it amplified. Like one of the girls said in one of her interviews that she had previous issues before she ever came in, like mentally, and she was like that when she got there, telling them that they had to be mic'd up the entire time and that they would go long periods of time without being able to talk. She was like, "Yeah, I'm left with my thoughts." And I'm left sitting here with my thoughts and not being able to talk or interact with for anyone with hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same way. If I have attachment issues or issues with my family or whatever, and then I go into a situation and they're like, we're a big happy family. There is a part of me that's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
We're close now? You guys care about me?
That's a part. That's a
Yeah.
part.
And like that makes it worse because now you have like you've hurt me when I was already hurt.
The fall is further. You're further from the ground, so the fall is gonna hurt. But I think also some people, I think we all assume that everybody comes from functional families.
Hmm.
And so that might be good news to some people who like their trauma and tells them like, hey, we're looking for a family. This there can be a way to do this well. But then there's other people who are like, I don't like my family.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all probably ain't safe to me because my family isn't functional.
Yeah.
And then you get the opposite type of behavior of just like, oh no, you stay over
Mm-hmm.
there. And that's its own type of thing. But let me also say, we're talking about two things at once. We're talking about America's Next Top Model, which I'm going to say was harmful and traumatic because that's also to say they went through psychobals. They
Mm-hmm.
went through all that stuff. And Sarah, like you told me about, also said they were looking to see what your trauma was and how they could use it on the show.
Yeah.
I can't say that that doesn't happen in the real world. I can't say that. But first of all, that's really messed up. That's terrible. But
Mm-hmm.
she would say all the time, they would ask her over and over and over again about her trauma. They would poke and poke and poke at what was going on with her so that they could get
Exploit it.
entertainment.
Yeah, exploit it.
Right. But then you think about other career fields that require us to get psychobals and require us to maybe get testing or things like that. And they know that something's going on with us, but then what do? They just say, yeah, you can have a job or can't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can have a job with some remediation. But then what? Y'all had a test and y'all knew that I had these diagnoses. You had a test and knew that this was the type of trauma that I've been through. But it doesn't matter because what? It does it's not impacting the forward
Yeah.
movement of the business.
I mean, but you're really good in this other area, so
You
we're gonna
shine
use that.
bright.
Yeah,
You shine bright like
like a
stars.
diamond,
So
like a diamond.
so we can't end up in any other way. You just need to keep that in
Yeah.
check.
So how about this though? How do you know if you have work trauma?
I mean, I couldn't tell you one single thing
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much. I can tell you an example for me, when I finally realized that I had work trauma is when I got into a work situation that lacked trauma, and I still felt very anxious about it or
Mm.
very scared about some things. And I was like, what's going on here? What's happening? This is normal. This is exactly how I was wishing things would be. This actually works really well with my lifestyle, but I couldn't relax enough. I was still afraid that somebody was going to come and yell at me. I was still afraid somebody was going to ask me about my quota and then it was going to be a whole shame spiral because I couldn't make it happen. Or I was always just anxious at work about small, like misinterpreting regular stuff
Mm-hmm.
as, oh no, I'm going to be in trouble and they're about to fire me.
Yes,
And
and
then I
that's
was
a
like, trauma. Yeah.
yeah, that is a good one. I think that like that's a good indicator that even when you're out of the situation, you find yourself scared because of the things that happen to you. Yeah, that's a big one. I think that sometimes I could tell one for me when I knew that I had an overreaction to something in a moment.
Mhm.
Like like we can all be reactive and things of that nature, but I knew in that moment when I felt myself like crying at work about something that I was like, why do I even care about this? And it was like it was more of like the emotional thing of like y'all have been playing with my emotions for a very, very long time.
And it did not start with this job. It did not start here, right? Like there's something else happening in the background. Or it didn't start with like this one experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much. And then like it's also and I maybe what I was saying earlier too is like the intensity of what I was feeling was so much. Like sometimes when we're at work, we show up and we make it work. I got a lot of parts online for me that know how to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't even know what I'm sacrificing until I stop and I take a moment. And so that meant like when I was at home doing nothing and those parts didn't need to be online that make stuff happen, I had nothing.
That's a big one.
I had
And I
nothing.
think that also being able to take inventory of why I'm sacrificing, which most times we're all sacrificing for something at work. Most of us, majority of us, are not just working for the heck of it. Even like, when I love my
It's
job,
always a trade
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, I love my job and I love my profession. I still work and I sacrifice for something. But I think that like being able to have the inventory every now and then of what that is and how that's showing up and how that's affecting you when you find yourself working too much or you find yourself looking for validation or you find yourself sad when these things are not happening, like what is going on
Hmm.
within me, what is going on within this environment,
Hmm.
like who's pulling strings around, like those things as well.
Yeah, there's so much to it. Like there's really so much to it. That's it, y'all. It's big. It's complicated. Um, Maybe it was really difficult and traumatic to watch the documentary on the back end,
Mm-hmm.
right? And seeing all the things that the women went through and the people who did not take accountability for the part they played and what the women went through.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think like we needed this group therapy session. We needed this time to like talk about this, to process what happened, because it's still in us.
Mm-hmm.
There's still some things that we do and we say, and that have stemmed from America's Next Top Model that still live within us. And I feel like we need to keep talking about it.
And
It's important.
maybe I think it's also important because it almost reminds me of like one of those movements that kind of sort of happens in like Hollywood sometimes when one person gets exposed and everybody's like, whoa. So I'm like curious as to like who else is gonna be like, this happened on this show too, and this happened on this show too, and
Hmm.
this like so like those things of like if we gonna uncover it, share it with the class.
Hmm. Yeah. Share with the, bring it to the front, bring it to the space so that we can all deal with it and we can all process it.
Yeah.
Last thoughts.
Um, I think that regardless, like I said earlier, at least like the first seasons, sorry, the first seasons, America's Next Top Model was definitely a time. It was
But I
definitely
think that's
like,
the problem. It was a time the whole time. And that was the problem. I couldn't look away because
oh,
sometimes it was a train wreck and you can't not look at a train wreck. You know how like you see a car
but
crash about to happen and you'll
that's
be
what I
like,
said. But there were times,
and it was a lot of fun too.
yeah,
And sometimes.
but there were even times that I remember like watching it and like calling my friends and like, did you just see what time it did? Like, girl, she out here. Like, what is happening?
Hmm.
And there's something as terrible as it may be, but there was something also like nostalgic about like watching it back in the documentary. Like, I really watched this as a kid and was like, this was great.
And I think it says a lot about us too that we
It
watched it and
does.
we were like, "This is good TV."
It does. And I think that like I saw a lot of people in the comments who was like, so y'all really out here talking about this show when y'all was the same one watching like Bad Girls Club and like like Fight for Love. And I was like, it was me. It was me. It's
It
me,
was.
Mario. So I think it's like those things too of like, I mean, it was a time where a lot of stuff was not appropriate and definitely not healthy. What were some of those shows? I want to ask you guys, like, what were some of those shows that now that you think about and you're like, that was like a really, really probably unhealthy, like potentially toxic, could have been
Most of
traumatic.
them. If it was reality TV, most of them.
Me maybe.
I think people discount the fact that we were the TV generation. You know what I'm saying? Like we were the generation that got all of the TV and they were still figuring out what was appropriate.
Yeah.
What was right to put on TV and what could we not? What were the lines? And they found those lines with our
They
generation.
definitely did because I definitely remember. Listen, like I don't like age myself, but I was in love with Real World, and I remember like top models. I mean, Tyra Banks saying that she wanted to combine like the like like the idea of Real World.
But that shows our active listening skills were not on because if we would have heard that and we heard top model and how that goes together or not goes together, we probably would have thought differently about some things. But we didn't.
But there was so much stuff that happened on air while they were being recorded for MTV's Real World where we were just like, and they were like, yeah, this should have been cut. Or like, oh my god, this shouldn't have happened. And it's like, yeah, we just were like test dummies out here figuring it out. And then
Hmm.
I think like after it aired, it was like people love people love the drama.
They do. They absolutely do. And again, that's us. We can own that. That's our problem. Because again, I was one of the people contributing to the fact that they still had 7,500 seasons. I didn't watch forever and ever, but it was enough. I was in the first few that they was like, Jasmine gonna come back for the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
They kept making them, and here
Yeah.
we are.
And there I was.
So we have a reckoning to do,
Yeah.
and I think that we can hold hands with
Dreams of woman.
with both the fact that like we are still complicit, like we kind of made this happen or contributed to its
Yes.
bigness, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible on us too. Like I think people don't discount too that watching the documentary, there were a lot of women who said, I didn't have an eating disorder before this. And then after that, it really fueled some things for me. Or I did have an eating disorder and I fell off the wagon after watching this, right? That like we're complicit in a way that it's entertaining. And also, we were watching stuff that was really bad for us. It
Yeah.
still was super harmful for
Yeah.
us. And we were also young. Like,
Yeah.
nobody was looking at us and being like, hey, we got to turn that off
Mm-hmm.
because it's Tyra and it's
Yeah.
modeling. And how crazy or immoral can that get?
But then it did.
And then it was only that.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna keep talking about it. We're gonna keep doing our group therapy thing. But in general, y'all, take care of yourselves, please, and stay mentally dope.
Mentally dope.